All right, here we are. It is Losing Sucks late night on a Thursday, a football Thursday. Travis, happy football, happy 2022 NFL season. We are finally underway. Rams and Bills, Bills and Rams. We got to watch a game. We are here
Brutal.
reacting to it, giving you some information that we have heading into week one. We've got some big picks that we want to break down, some instant reactions. We've got over under talk and a bunch of other things that are on our mind that we need to get out there into the universe. But first of all, Travis, how are you? It's late for us here, and we've got some football to break down, and we are feeling
Mixed emotions. Mixed emotions, Dustin. Something that I found during the game. I'll give you three things. First, I think 25 managed leagues with notifications is far too many. Everybody felt like they should give me the play-by-play as if we were not watching the game together.
yeah.
Second, the Rams look terrible, and for somebody who has acres and a little bit of acres, actually, I thought I had a lot more. I went into panic mode like halfway through the first quarter and realized I only have 2 shares, so that's fine.
There
Allen
you go.
Robinson, though, I believe is my most owned receiver in Dynasty, and that was horrible. Allen
Mhm.
Robinson was nowhere to be found. He had no chemistry with Matthew Stafford whatsoever. It's not like he was being thrown at and they weren't on the same page. So maybe chemistry is the wrong word, but it was
Sure.
just a Cooper Cup show, and it just
Yeah.
kept happening over and over again. You got to think, what will it take for it
Mhm.
not to be that show?
So, I mean, I want to react to that because that's actually it's very early right now, and Twitter hasn't quite got a hold of the narrative yet. You know, you're gonna see some things. People are going to say some outlandish things on the internet, and you're gonna hear some videos of guys saying Allen Robinson is washed and this offense looked awful. But you have to remember, take it with a grain of salt. This is not what the finished product will be. This is not what this offense will be. You are going to have so much change even in just the next 2 or 3 weeks, because let me paint a rosier picture for you, Travis, and for myself, because I also have Allen Robinson on some of my rosters. Allen Robinson is not the safety blanket of Matthew Stafford, and when you're facing a top defense, not just one of the top defenses, but probably the top defense in the NFL,
They
who
looked it
just
tonight.
got better with Von Miller, and you have a Rams offense that is struggling on offensive line, trying to find its identity again. Matthew Stafford had no choice but to roll out of the pocket many times, and he knew exactly where Cooper Kupp was going to be. He doesn't have that chemistry with Allen Robinson yet. That's okay. You can't be expected to just have that week one. Now, granted, you want more than one target. So that is something that I definitely like. I'm not saying there's nothing to worry about, but I'm not saying like go and trade away Allen Robinson, because
No,
you have to kind of look back on what you know about the Rams, know about Sean McVay. These guys are going to figure it out, and they're not always going to face this defense. Check their schedule. I want you to go look who the Rams are facing next week and tell me that doesn't make you feel a whole lot better, because Allen Robinson and this offense are going to get a turnaround. But let's focus more on this game real quick. Let's talk about your man, your guy that you've drafted in a whole bunch of leagues and you've talked about on the show, Cam Akers.
yes, 2 shares across Dynasty and Redraft, but a lot in Best Ball,
Right.
because I thought the value he just kept falling and falling. It looked like that might have been for good reason. Daryl
Right.
Henderson rarely left the field, which was a shock to everybody. We did not get a single report that
Yeah.
Cam Akers was not ready to go for tonight. In fact, Sean McVay said Akers and Henderson are both, quote, good to go
Co-starters.
for tonight. They're
Co-starters, they're listed. You know,
That
it
was not the case.
sucks.
And Akers looked fine. I mean,
Sure.
it
I
wasn't like he was
well,
out there looking terrible.
I don't know, man. He didn't look exactly explosive. There were some times when he
Two
couldn't break through a
carries,
tackle.
2 carries, both times the defense was already in the backfield. And then on the pass where Matthew Stafford threw it 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage, He made 2 guys miss and got back to the line of scrimmage, which in PPR is a positive play. So congratulations
Oh,
on the
come
half point.
on. Are we doing this right now
That when
after we just
in my head when that happened, because I have him in a standard league and a PPR league, I'm like, yes, I
right.
got half a point in one league
There you go.
for
At
the
least still all
same
right.
play.
So what you're telling me is that there is actually a silver lining for Cam Akers here. It's that he did give you some positive points.
When he was on the field, it could have been a lot worse. So it's not
I just have
like James
questions.
Cook, for example. When James Cook
The
first
one
touch of
carry
his
he had.
career, fumble, he got the Ronald Jones treatment. He is clearly the number 3 in that backfield, and that was established tonight.
Sure.
Singletary looked like the clear number 1. Zach Moss got a lot more run than I thought he was going to get. So
yeah. It felt like it was more out of necessity.
It looks right now, at least for the first few weeks, we could see very little Akers and James Cook.
I'm not going to disagree with you. Obviously, from looking at that game, Cam Akers, whether it's just confidence from the coaching staff, not wanting to expose him to more than he's ready for at this point. You know, I know me and you have kind of had our jabs going back and forth between how I label it, you know, him coming off of injury. But to me, he is still coming off of an injury. He came back, sure, after 5 months, but who really knows how close he was? He was just maybe just able to join a field. But I'm still in the camp that he's 13 months removed, 13 and a half months or so removed from an Achilles tear, which is still within the range that normal athletes are just now starting to return from Achilles tears. So the jury is still far from out on Cam Akers and his role on this team. Like you said, we might not be seeing him or James Cook, much of them, in the first couple of weeks, and that's kind of okay.
Like you said, Atlanta is in LA next week. Are you more comfortable starting Akers? I'm not, because we don't know what's going on.
I mean, he's a flex consideration, I guess, if you're a pinch, but like it's week 2, you know, at that point, so you've got other options.
I don't think you can start him until he at least plays 40 to 50%.
Some people might not have an option. Some people might not have an option. I understand.
I think he had 3 looks all night.
Like you're talking about a guy you spent a fourth, some people third, fourth, fifth round pick on.
You already have to throw that out of the window.
No, I hear you, but like, what are your other options? Like, all right, so maybe if you have like a guy like Kareem Hunt or know,
all day long
for sure. No, I'm definitely with you.
You're
but
saying, okay.
If you don't have him, if you have Cam Akers, then you're like, okay, I'm set for a little while. Like you're in a really tough spot. So.
Naeem Hines, Kenneth Gainwell, those type of guys, I feel like
more things are going to have
starting.
to unfold. Like storylines are going to unfold, and Cam Akers is far from safe right now.
Yeah.
On the other side of the ball, let's go back to the quarterback position. Though Josh Allen looked like an absolute MVP. We knew he would. You know, the interception that he threw, the first one picked right out of the hands of Isaiah McKenzie, and then the really good play by Troy Hill, making the play on the ball thrown to Jamison Crowder over the middle. But Josh Allen, man, on fire, accurate, 26 of 31 for 297 yards. Had some scary rushing plays. Maybe it's just me because I see him rushing, especially in that fourth quarter where it's like the game's over. Why are you running the ball? But Josh Allen is a man. The stiff arm, absolutely obliterating guys. He's going to give you these highlight plays every single week, it feels like. And this offense just looked different, especially against a team that had, granted, it's a different team now, it's a different season, but they won the Super Bowl, you know, and the Bills just absolutely rolled them. So I think
you still consider the Rams a great defense.
Oh, they're going to be good, and at home. But for Josh Allen to just absolutely lay waste to them is incredible. What do you think of Matt Stafford, though, in terms of, do you think, are you already sounding the alarms, or are you also going to give him some leeway before we move on?
Not going to sound the alarms too much. He looked bad tonight, but I think the Bills will make a lot of people look bad, even elite.
For sure.
And Stafford is an elite quarterback. I think
right.
First week, after missing a lot of time in the offseason with a lot of new faces there, Missing Robert Woods, Odell Beckham, they said it over and over again on the
Yeah.
broadcast. We thought
Yeah.
Allen Robinson would step in and be a comforting force immediately. He might be.
Sure.
I would not be
Eventually.
surprised to see Allen Robinson go for 100 yards and a score next week against Atlanta. I think it's one of those things where a great defense, and the Bills looked at tonight,
Hmm.
could very well just shake up everything, even what we think about elite players. So
No, I agree.
better
And
days ahead for the Rams. It's just a disappointing night, especially after a long off season. You
right.
would want a shootout, and it just didn't happen on both
That's what
sides.
you were looking forward to, and only one side really delivered. But you know what? There's a lot more football to look forward to. We have so many storylines that we're looking forward to on Sunday, and we get to watch them all unfold Sunday and Monday. Travis, let's talk about some things that we are looking forward to seeing now in week one. We've got, like I said, a litany of positives that are yet to turn into awful, awful games and break our hearts. So give me some things that you're looking forward to. Hit me with a few topics that you can't wait to see on Sunday.
All right, number one, Devontae Adams versus Renfro versus Waller. I want to see against a good team that we're expecting to be and a good defense in the Chargers.
Right.
What is the pecking order here? Obviously, we all think it will be Adams. I believe Waller is the second option there. A lot of people think that Renfro will still out target Waller. We'll see. I think I'm just really curious to see McDaniels with the new weapons. Is it going to be more of an air show, or is it going to be a very balanced attack? Because a lot of people
Yeah.
that drafted Josh Jacobs in the fourth, fifth, that's kind of a polarizing topic right now.
Yeah, we can spend a couple seconds on that because you mentioned the passing weapons. When look, the running back has always been a productive part of a New England style run attack, and Josh McDaniels bringing that over. I think people are a little bit lower on Josh Jacobs. That's just my personal opinion. But Devontae Adams, you brought up Darren Waller and Hunter Renfro. Me and you have gone back and forth talking about how Hunter Renfro, I think Hunter Renfro is going to be the number two. Darren Waller, obviously very talented. And I think he and Renfro are probably going to split the two duties in
Do you
that
think
in that
Renfro
offense.
is the two across the board? Like, I think Waller has more catches, yards, and touchdowns. Do you think Renfro grabs one or two of those categories?
I think he can for sure. Like I said, it's going to be back and forth each week. I think each of them will have like Renfro will have wide receiver two upside each week. Especially in PPR. I mean, he's not going to score like your Devontae Adams level touchdowns. What we've talked about in the past, though, is that Darren Waller is probably going to see higher efficiency in the end zone or in the red zone because of the coverage that's no longer just shadowing him all over the place. You can't afford to do it. So I think this offense is still going to run, but week one against a stout Chargers defense, maybe something to keep an eye on.
What Cooper Kupp just did tonight, like setting that stage again at that high of a target volume, I think he had 40% of their targets, is absurd. And Devontae Adams could come out and have 25% and get maybe 8 to 10 targets, 6 or 7 catches, and people will feel disappointed because of what Cooper Kupp is doing. But
For sure.
I do think, I'm on board with Devontae Adams being around that top 5 to 7, maybe 8 receiver.
Sure.
If Renfro or Waller gets banged up, I think he's in that top 3. But yeah, I'm Waller over Renfro. You're Renfro over Waller, just as far as pecking order. That's why it's on the list. I'm excited to see what do they do against what we expect to be a good Chargers team and hopefully a shootout.
Absolutely.
What about you? What's the first thing you're looking for?
First thing on my list, and we've talked about him, you hate him with a passion, but Tua Tagovailoa, he is a polarizing topic because now he affects so many of our beloved fantasy weapons in the community. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, we got Chase Edmonds, who a lot of people are hopeful for. And this offense facing the New England Patriots week one, a test because, Bill Belichick is no slouch coaching up a defense. That offense has some questions, but that's neither here nor there at this moment in time. Tua is either going to fuel the fire, or he's going to answer a lot of questions. I think Tyreek can definitely make it work for him. I think in that system, they're going to ask him to have a low A dot, which he's comfortable with, taking some smart, calculated shots downfield. So I like Tua, but I'm really interested to see how he performs because that's the kind of the linchpin for the whole operation there. They've got a backup quarterback that they're ready to put in Teddy Bridgewater at any point.
I think Tua struggles to throw the football. I think a
Yeah, you
matchup
don't even think he has
against
any hands to
I
throw
think
it.
against Bill Belichick week 1 after an entire offseason to prepare to go 1-0 against a division rival he's already seen to last year. I don't know if you call them rivals really with the Patriots, but
Eh,
um
eh.
yeah, I expect a decent enough game from Tyreek Hill just because I think they force feed him. I expect a quiet Jalen Waddle start coming off injury,
Interesting.
missing a couple of the most recent weeks with Tua.
Sure.
Chase Edmonds monitor the groin injury. He
Oh, they
may
said he's
not.
good. They said he's good.
He may not be 100% though. We could see more of a split than we will most of the season. Um, he's also a high risk. That's a type of injury that you can pull again at any point. So it's like a hamstring. I was reading a
Right.
lot of stuff on Twitter today from actual doctors who also play fantasy, and they said they are pretty cautious. Be cautious with Chase Edmonds.
Oh
If he
man,
goes out there and has tweaks anything, it's going to be a shutdown type situation.
that's not what you want to hear. Just
Number two,
fire up your Miles Gaskin.
I am looking at with no Brian Robinson. Does Antonio Gibson get 25 touches against the Jaguars? It
Ooh.
sounds lofty, but in a game script that should be fairly even, I think Gibson should carry the ball 18 to 20 times. Maybe he gets 4 or 5 catches. 25 is probably as high as it will go, but I think he could get really close to it. I'm excited
Sure.
for the start of the season for Antonio Gibson. It's unfortunate what happened to Brian Robinson, but I have a lot of Gibson, so maybe I'm just, you know, how we tend to do in fantasy where we have the guy, so we kind of talk ourselves into this narrative. But against the Jags, if he doesn't get off to a hot start, completely healthy with no actual backup, then
Right.
when will he? So Antonio Gibson, let's go, man.
Yeah, it's a fair narrative. I went and looked. I'm like, I saw this on our show sheet, and I'm like, 25 touches. There's no way. Then I went and looked. There were times last year when he had 30 touches, 27, 29. So granted, some of
He
those
had
J.D.
300
McKissick
on the
was
year.
out.
I mean, he's high,
Yeah,
he
so
could be a
it's
high
not
guy.
it's not astronomical, but it is something that like you hear 25 and you're like, there's no way because that is it. I just they have Curtis Samuel now, and I feel like the way that they want to use these other guys and kind of not use Antonio Gibson for everything, regardless of if he has the talent, I think that Ron Rivera just wants to use other guys, and if he wants to use
Yeah.
other guys, he's going to find ways to use other guys. So I hear what you're saying. Maybe he does get to around 20, a little bit, like in that neighborhood, but that'll be something interesting to see how that backfield plays out.
I think they have to get somewhat of a lead.
For sure.
If they're up a touchdown or 10 in the second half, he has a lot
I've got the
better
Jaguars in
chance.
that game. So
Yeah, if
I
they go
would-
down, it's going to be a lot more JD for sure.
yeah. Speaking of some other narratives and some running backs that we've talked about, one team that likes to run the ball. You've talked about Elijah Mitchell in the past, and I want to talk about their quarterback because you know what? He's also facing a quarterback that I am a fan of. Trey Lance faces Justin Fields. Talk about two young mobile studs who could turn into fantasy assets this year. Trey Lance, again, is the quarterback for the weapons that most of us draft, in the upper mid to very high rounds. Debo Samuel, a very talented but highly drafted, second, third round guy. And maybe we don't see Kittle here. Does that help hurt Debo? Does that help hurt Ayuk? Who knows? But Trey Lance and Justin Fields be on the field. I want to see that game play out. More to come later on the show about that matchup. But I want to see what Lance does to quiet the critics, or will he pour gasoline onto this blaze that is the handsome Jimmy G? Because whether I believe it or not, people are talking about the media, and you have to know some people in that locker room are questioning, okay, is Trey Lance the actual answer here in this locker room? And Jimmy G is a guy who they've had success with in the past. My question is, does Trey Lance, like I said, does he do enough to take the questions out of the minds of those who are asking them, or are more question marks going to pop up? So
I
Sunday's
believe
going
he
to answer
balls
those.
out. I think he balls out. I know
I
you've
hope
got him
so.
at number 3 on the week.
Right.
I do think that Trey Lance is a top 10 quarterback this week. So, I mean, if he's not, I don't think there's that much freak out yet. I don't think Jimmy's fully ready anyway. It'll be
Mm-hmm.
a little while, but it's the Bears. It's like playing the Texans or the Falcons right now. I know it's hard for you to hear as you sip from your Bears cup and your Bears hat. However, I think Trey Lance gets it done. I think Elijah Mitchell gets it done. I'll talk about Mitchell a little bit later in the show.
Sure.
I hope Kittle plays because Kittle makes a lot of difference in the run game. But
I think he's going to need to.
even if he doesn't play, or if he plays for a half and they get up, I think they'll be able to do whatever they want against the Bears right now. The 49ers
Well, the
are
Bears,
just a really good team.
to put some context on it, though, the Bears are actually really good in pass protection. So, or in pass defense. So we'll see how that goes as well. There's another
All
big
right.
matchup that I know you want to talk about, Travis. So go ahead and hit me with that right now.
The third thing I'm looking for right now, this weekend, I'm excited to see the Chiefs offense outside of Travis Kelce. Will we get any predictability? I know that Mahomes said earlier this week that it's going to be a little bit frustrating for fantasy owners because it's going to be or could be a different guy every week between Juju, Sky, Smith-Schuster. 3 running backs. They have a lot of weapons. The Chiefs always feel like they do have a lot of weapons just because that offense gives a lot of guys opportunities.
Right.
But we've had some sort of predictability with Hill, Kelsey. You know, Hardman is not really predictable, but you know what you're getting in Hardman. We
Mm-hmm.
don't know exactly what to expect with Juju and MVS and Sky. So obviously,
Right.
one game is not big enough of a sample size to say, okay, this is who they are. But in what should be a shootout against Arizona, I'm curious to see, is Juju the clear number 2 there, like Tyreek and Kelsey were the 1-2 punch? I predict that will be the case, but I think people are sleeping a little bit on MVS. He kind of got overshadowed by
Sure.
the rookie hype, and he's a good player. When he gets vertical, he can be really effective.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. The matchup that I'm looking forward to this week is the Ravens and the Jets. And to answer the question that Ian McCarthy has left for us on YouTube,
Oh,
talking about Bateman or Elijah Moore, Bateman is one of the guys that I'm excited to watch, along with Brees Hall being on the same field. Watching these two guys actually get some run with the guys that they're going to be playing with all season. Rashad Bateman would be my pick. Rashad Bateman or Elijah Moore at your flex position. I think he's going to have more scoring opportunities. But Rashad Bateman going up against a Jet secondary that is going to have some questions. Granted, they have Sauce Gardner, who has looked great. But again, rookie cornerbacks, their first game, I'm going to need to see them prove it. Rashad Bateman has some proving to do as well. Brees Hall, though, on the other hand, the first week, really rough week to go against in your first NFL game. I've got him way down my ranks this week. I think he's my running back 31 this week. So Brees
yeah.
Hall, don't panic this season. The Ravens are just a really good defense.
He should be better
So
than Cam Akers.
yeah, I'm hoping so.
God dang, man.
Yeah, it's hard to be much worse than Cam Akers.
That's
Um,
that's gonna hurt for a couple days.
Real quick to answer Nathaniel Prito's. I hope I got that name right. Question: Devontae Parker, Tyler Boyd, or Melvin Gordon? I'm going Melvin Gordon there in a full PPR league.
I would go Devontae Parker.
Gross. But that's that's your prerogative there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rashad and Brees Hall are the two guys in the Jets and Ravens matchup that I'm looking forward to watching. In week 1. Travis, it's our first week though, week 1, and you know what that means. It is time for our big picks of the week. These are our picks that we, one guy at each position, running back, quarterback, wide receiver, and tight end, who we predict that are going to outperform their projection in a half-point PPR league by 5 points or more. So I'll
These are
let you lead
smash
things
plays.
off. Let's start with that quarterback position then.
All right.
Hit me with who you have, because I feel like I'm not going to be shocked in the least by this guess here.
I don't think anybody will be shocked by this. Kyler Murray, it feels like a chalk pick. But to reiterate what you were saying about the big picks, these are guys that we think will drastically outperform where they are projected points-wise on any site. Kyler Murray, for me, is going to go off. This is the highest projected point total by Vegas on the season or on the week, with 53 points over under. I see a lot of fireworks from both sides here. Kyler Murray averages just under 40 rushing yards per game in his career.
Mm-hmm.
I expect a 50 plus to 60 yards on the ground game for Kyler Murray, given they're going to have to play catch up. When they get in that mode, when Kyler gets in that mode of, we have to keep up, I have to do whatever I need to do, and not this scripted, look to the sideline, let's manage this game. They're not going to be able to do that. It's going to be all hands on deck, whatever you need to do, keep the drive alive. We've got to keep up with these guys. Field goals aren't going to do it. Those type of games, Kyler Murray is a 30-point quarterback.
Yeah,
we just saw Josh Allen start the season with 30. I think Kyler gets to that 30.
It's really tough.
My prediction for Kyler with Hollywood and Zach Ertz, I believe Zach Ertz is healthy. He should be good to go. I think 325 total yards. I just said 50 to 60 on the ground. So I think 260 to 275 through the air. 3 total touchdowns, maybe 1 on the ground, 2 in the air.
Oh, man.
On tap for little Yoda. Kyler Murray, for me, is a 30-point quarterback week 1. What say you?
I got to tell you, I disagree. And I'm a big Kyler fan. I should have worn my Kyler jersey, so graciously given to me by you. I appreciate that.
Yes.
But Kyler Murray he finds himself on the low end of an over-under. The implied points, they have the Chiefs winning this game by 9 points. So it's wild to me that Kyler's getting, as much, leeway, a runway, if you will. Granted, the rushing upside is huge. I don't know that I see a 30-point game in week 1. I'm just hesitant because you have this matchup where Andy Reid is one of the best coaches at week 1, that especially with Patrick Mahomes, who is arguably the best quarterback week 1 in the last few years. So it's hard for me to imagine that Kyler Murray gets out to a fast start. I don't know especially without D-Hop there, Rondale Moore probably not looking to play, Zach Ertz banged up. You have another year older AJ Green, Christian Kirk's gone. You have Hollywood Brown, but he hasn't played.
Garbage time.
Garbage. Your argument is garbage time,
it's a shootout, and they will be coming from behind. There's not going to be James Conner rush it 20-25 times.
Well, sure, but
it is going to be dump offs. It's going to be running around and finding somebody and keeping the drive. This is just where Kyler Murray
we just watched ugly. A game. We just watched a game where a good team was supposed to be coming from behind, and how did that work out? Coming from behind.
Stafford doesn't move. He 40 rushing yards on the season last year. 43 on the season for Stafford. Under 43 for Murray week 1.
Under.
Okay.
Because how many times have we said it on this show? We want teams that want to pass, not teams that have to pass. So having to pass, I think, leads to low efficiency. So I'm in disagreement. The rushing upside kind of gives you a safer floor, but
I think he has to run a lot, which
he's still inside my top 10. He's still inside my top 10. He's my quarterback 8 this week.
Okay.
But I'm not ready to give him that 30-point week.
So you're around 22 to 25.
Yeah, an average Kyler week.
So all he's got to do is punch in a rushing touchdown and get that.
Sure,
30.
Absolutely. He's not going to kill you, but he's not going to be this. He won't be the reason you win the week, in my opinion. Now,
right,
my quarterback.
Answer this question real quick.
All right, what do you got?
We actually have 3 quick questions. Why was
Oh
Cam
dang.
Akers invisible? I don't think he was physically ready. Not from the Achilles. I think there was a soft tissue injury a few weeks ago. I
Mm,
don't think he was fully ready to go, or they just loved what Henderson gave them in this game plan, and they were wrong. Henderson was fine,
sure.
um,
He looked good.
but I think Cam Akers could have done the same stuff that Henderson did tonight. So maybe
We'll
against
never know.
Atlanta, they start to get him more work. We just said on the beginning of the show, though, if you have another option, even if the other option has been ranked lower all offseason, it's okay to look at that. You have to stay water, what we
Right.
call it here. You have to be okay starting a Gainwell or a Tyler Boyd or somebody like a different type of flex until you see Cam Akers get enough touches to be startable.
Right.
Second question, Dustin, you can take this one.
Sure.
Um, who do you think is the two there? Obviously Hollywood and Ertz. Do you think AJ Green is on the field as the two for the whole game
Well, I mean,
if
if we're
healthy?
talking about who the number two is, I mean, you just said it. I think it would be Zach Ertz. But if you're talking about pure volume, AJ Green's probably going to be the technical wide receiver too. But in terms of target volume, we could very well see James Conner again lead the team in targets. That is not far fetched to think. So my answer to that would probably be I mean AJ Green might have 4 or 5 targets, but the way that they use him, he's more of a red zone threat if anything.
Yeah,
So and then to answer Nathaniel's question about his defenses, he's asking who
none
should
of them.
he start at defense: Chiefs versus Arizona, the Buccaneers versus the Cowboys, or the Steelers versus Cincinnati. Um, I'm probably gonna go with the Bucks because what do you want in a defense? You want interception possibilities. You want teams that are gonna throw it a lot for those interceptions, and then because they're throwing a lot, you get sacks as well. So, what better way to get sacks than to face a beat up offensive line like the Cowboys have? So that's where I'm going.
I agree. Of those three, if you have to pick one, I would go Bucks.
Yeah, for sure.
However, surely there's something better out there. Any
Maybe.
almost anything would be better.
Sure.
One that I've seen out there a lot is Philly. The Hard Knocks hype is real. People believe in Detroit.
I love
It's
Philly. Love their
I
defense.
still think Philly is going to get after it week one. Check and see if Philly's out there.
I
We'll
don't
check.
know.
We'll check here in a minute and
We'll
see if
see.
there's
We'll
some
see.
other streaming options that
Let's
we can
move
get
on
in.
though to the next big pick. My quarterback for week one, a guy that I've been touting all offseason, as many have. His weapons. I love this offense. Every single piece. It is Russell Wilson, the quarterback for the Denver Broncos. And how ironic, how revenge narrative-y it is week one. Russell Wilson facing his former team, Seattle, who just so happens to boast an awful pass defense. And you know what? That's a team, we talked about it earlier. That offense was one of the lowest volume because the defense could not stop drives. The offense for Seattle last year saw one of the lowest volume, it was one of the lowest volume percentages of the last 10 years because the defense could not sustain drives. The defense was on the field for the most time out of any defense by far last season. So what does that tell me about this game? It means Russell Wilson, one of the most efficient quarterbacks that we've seen in a long time, is going to lead long extended drives, and we're going to see these weapons score a lot of touchdowns. My projection for Russell Wilson in this game is 310 easy yards and 2 passing touchdowns at least. Fire up every
Wow.
single weapon you have for the Broncos because you know what? Broncos country. Let's ride.
That's a great pitch there. Um, Conceptually, this is something that year in and year out, I don't know if it's right or wrong, but it always comes into my head when there is such a mismatch, which we expect Broncos versus Seahawks to be.
Right.
I feel like Russell Wilson has to do a lot of damage in the first half because once they get up 10, it's the Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon show. And they will control the game. Russell Wilson loves to do that.
Mm-hmm.
control the game, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5. He rushes to the sideline, sticks the ball out, first down. Now let's run another 5 minutes off the clock. I don't
Sure.
expect it to be a shootout. It's kind of weird because like they play a terrible team. And you're like, oh, they're gonna murder them. But a lot of times, quarterbacks finish these games with 200 yards because they did all their damage in the first half. They get up 10 or 15, and then they just run the clock out.
Sure.
But
I mean,
yeah, I mean, I
sure.
can see it if Seattle gives them any kind of juice on the other side to stay in the
Yeah.
game, then yeah, I think 300 is pretty easy. But I just don't think
To
they're
that,
gonna need
yeah.
to.
To the point about them, running the clock out that we're seeing in the comments. Yeah, I mean that's definitely a possibility, but Seattle is not as bad against the run as they were the past. Granted, they don't have Bobby Wagner anymore, but this defense was actually closer to middle of the pack against. I think they were like 17th against the run or something like that. So not exactly incredible, but they're not nearly as bad as like the 29th ranked pass defense that they were last season, and nothing has changed. Jamal Adams isn't going to all of a sudden be incredible again.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson, like they'll run the ball and sustain drives, like I said, but you're going to have long drives. Or what you really want is quick scoring drives, and have the Seattle offense give the ball right back to the Broncos. So I just see I don't necessarily know, unless I'm completely wrong on the Seattle offense and they just are very efficient somehow with Geno Smith running the show. I think Russell Wilson has a great script here.
He feels incredibly safe for
It does.
20 plus points, so it's not a
For
bad
sure.
pick at all.
For sure.
I don't know why I always struggle with like, oh, that team is so bad that the quarterback's
Right.
going to have to do nothing for a half, but that's not always the case.
Yeah.
NFL
not.
teams put up a fight, so
For sure. Revenge game narrative. They're going to let him score. Let's talk about running backs.
all right.
Travis, who's your running back big pick of the week?
It is going to be Elijah Mitchell. We did make these picks before the George Kittle news blurb today, but I still think San Francisco is going to be able to do whatever they want against Chicago, and I think they're going to have over 30 rushes as a team pretty easily. Between Lance and Mitchell, 30 rushes seems like a floor. Vegas is predicting 49ers to score about 28 points of the over-under 41.5, so that means a big lead for a lot of the game. I think full
sure.
second half, we see an effective Elijah Mitchell just keep pounding the rock. So
is there
my
any
projection
worry for you though? Is there any worry for you that like we see like a Jeff Wilson Vulture or a Tyrion Davis Price?
Yeah, I mean that's always something that happens with San Francisco, but we saw a lot last year when they had multiple guys healthy. When Elijah Mitchell was healthy and rolling, he did not come off the field for a while. So yeah, I can see a vulture happen. I can see Lance vulturing. Touchdowns are really hard to predict. I love the guys who are going to pound the rock inside the 20s. I have Elijah Mitchell going for around 115 total yards and a few good looks at the end zone. Hopefully he punches one in.
Yeah, that's probably likely. The Bears, like I said, they're okay against the pass, but the rushing defense, there's nothing there. So I will be shocked to see any kind of resistance against that defensive line.
Yeah.
And Elijah Mitchell, like you said, being on a rushing offense, that's going to pay some dividends.
No doubt.
My running back big pick of the week, though, this Travis, is playing on a highly prolific offense. And granted, a trip to the Super Bowl doesn't quiet down expectations. And I don't care how many touches Samaje Perine gets. I'm talking about Joe the Man Mixon for
Even
the
against
Cincinnati
Pittsburgh.
Well, you hear that because you hear Pittsburgh and you think, man, that's an incredible defense. But what if I told you that they were one of the bottom rushing defenses in the entire league last year?
I'd be shocked, actually. I would be.
And now we're talking about an upgraded offense. Okay, let's call them a top 5 offense and a much improved offensive line going against one of the worst rushing defenses from 2021. And do I need anything else? Man, this is a smash spot. This is a guy that's going to go out there. He's gonna catch passes. I've got him projected for 24 total touches and 120 yards and a touchdown. This is going to be
I love Joe Mixon. This is hard for me to buy week 1, though. And Pittsburgh's going to be hyped up. Is it in Pittsburgh?
It's lofty. I would have to check.
It is.
Go ahead and check it. Maybe it is in Pittsburgh. It's not going to change my. It's not going to be. It's not going to change my
It's
my
in
opinion of it.
Cincinnati.
All right, perfect. All right, well, then I'm going to double it. He's going to have 50 touches, 240 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
I love it.
Yeah, so definitely no tempering of the expectations right here. Let's talk some wide receivers, some pass catchers, some guys that aren't going to break my freaking heart like Allen Robinson did tonight. Who, I'm going to take this one. I'll let you follow me up with your wide receiver. I'll double up right here. My wide receiver big pick of the week is Michael Pittman. Big Mike Pittman. He is facing a juicy, and I mean Juicy matchup against the Houston Texans because everybody beats up on the Texans. It's the same narrative I just spoke about with the Jets. They drafted a high-value corner with an early pick in the draft. Who cares? Michael Pittman is an Adonis. He will go out there, and he's not like a Julio Jones. Don't get your mind twisted in trying to say just because Matt Ryan's there, don't try to argue against the point that Matt Ryan's going to turn him into a Julio Jones. Michael Pittman is not Julio Jones. If anything, He's closer to like a bigger Keenan Allen. He's very good at running routes. Mike Evans is a great comp. Yeah. He is just very smooth in his routes, and he knows how to create separation. He just so happens to be a very large human being and has a large catch radius. So Michael Pittman against the Houston Texans, and now he has an improved quarterback who knows where he's going to be, better anticipation, more calm, cool, collected in the pocket, and the accuracy improvements are just going to be, you're going to see it on the field. More efficiency. My projection for him this week against that team, 11 targets, 8 receptions for 100 yards and a touchdown. I feel like that feels safe for him. So
should be more.
It's gonna feel really good. So make sure if you're on the fence at all in whatever league you're in about Michael Pittman, you shouldn't be, but feel even better now about him in your starting lineup.
All right, my wide receiver is not as clear-cut as a stud as Michael Pittman will be against the Texans. Adam Thielen, for the Vikings going against Green Bay, he has absolutely torched Green Bay in 2 of the last 3 games. En route to 8 for 82 in a score and 6 for 110 in 2 scores. Adam Thielen is somebody that you just love to look at your lineup and see going into the game. It feels like he wakes up out of bed, 75 yards, good chance at a score. He's been doing that for years. With a healthy Jair Alexander for Green Bay, what I think shadowing Justin Jefferson. Obviously,
shattering Justin Jefferson, absolutely. Yeah, he'll be shattered.
He will be shattered. One of them will be shattered. I don't think Justin Jefferson goes absolutely off. Alexander, to me, is a top 3, if not top 1. Or 2 cornerback in the league.
That's sriracha spicy. I like
Alexander is an absolute shutdown corner, so that's going to be a great matchup. Of course, Kirk Cousins will throw Jefferson's way, but I think this is one of those weeks against the Packers where Adam Thielen gets more targets than even normal. I see a 10-target plus game. I think Adam Thielen this week has around 8 catches, 85 yards, and a touchdown. And touchdowns are not something I like to predict, but Adam Thielen seems to get a touchdown a week. So,
yeah, he's a red zone favorite of Kirk Cousins. I like the narrative; it makes sense to me, especially interdivision facing a number 2 corner. Jair Alexander probably going to stay on Justin Jefferson most of the game, so I can follow you there in that logic. And in a Kevin O'Connell offense coming in, we're definitely going to see an upgraded, at least a more modern offense in Minnesota. So
yeah,
I can follow the logic, and I support it. So Adam Thielen, make sure you put that old man in your roster. He is going down.
All right, am I going tight end or are you going tight end?
Go ahead, tight end. We'll as we do on this show, we always end with the tight end, the most important position in sports. Go ahead and tell me who your tight end big pick of the week is.
All right, I am sticking in the Cardinals-Chiefs game. It is not Travis Kelce. That's too easy of a pick. Zach Ertz with DeAndre Hopkins out, Christian Kirk gone, Chase Edmonds gone, and a very old aging AJ Green hanging around.
Yes,
Zach
sir.
Ertz and Hollywood Brown should both feast out of the gate, out of necessity.
He just keeps producing.
He saw 43 targets in the final 4 games of last year when
It's
Hopkins got hurt.
ridiculous. So crazy.
Over 10 a week. Um,
Yeah,
and
the
what
math does
will
add
be
up.
a shootout, as we keep saying, I expect it to be high scoring. Zach Ertz feels like a very safe bet for a lofty 8 to 10 targets, which it doesn't sound lofty when you hear 43 over the last 4.
Right.
I'm projecting around 7 catches and a touchdown. They will need Zach Ertz quite a bit, and he has been incredibly effective. Kyler Murray loves throwing him the ball. McBride is exciting. Zach Ertz is not
Right.
leaving the field. So Zach Ertz, for me, will easily outproduce whatever he's projected on your platform by over 5 points.
Yeah. All he's done since he's arrived in Arizona is be on pace to be the tight end 4.
Yeah,
So
he's nice.
yeah, it feels good. The guy, something should make you feel good. It's a guy that's produced at his position, and now he's got even more opportunity. So I love that pick, Zach Ertz against the
Thanks.
Kansas City Chiefs. My pick makes me feel good because obviously I support this man and everything he does. I followed his entire career, but he just so happens to be in a spot where look, I think that the volume is going to be there, and especially for a tight end. That's what you want. It's Cole Kmet against the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the touchdowns are always tough to predict. So, I always take them with a grain of salt. But this guy, last year, we saw it. He was a reliable target in this offense. There were only 5 games last year that he didn't see at least 5 targets. And that gives me a lot of hope, especially in hopefully a more mature offense led by second-year Justin Fields and some more rapport, some more trust, more importantly, and a coaching staff who really understands how to use him in his skill set. Getting Kmet open, hopefully get some red zone opportunities. Maybe this offense doesn't sustain many drives, and that's okay. But all we need for a tight end to be successful are targets and touchdown opportunities. And I have a feeling that those are going to be present in this game for Cole Kmet. My projection for him this week against the 49ers is 8 targets, 70 yards, and a touchdown. I think he does find the end zone. It's lofty, but I don't think 70 yards is crazy. I think for a number 2 target who, maybe Mooney doesn't catch a lot of passes, I think Kmet can get it done.
I like it. They're going to be coming from behind a lot. I think the Bears,
For sure.
and he's statistically due for positive TD regression this year.
I would hope so.
I think on the season, 8 would be really nice for Kmet, and I think starting off with 1 would be a really good thing to do. So maybe they force feed him in that red zone. He's a big body target. I really like the pick.
Yeah, he looked good in the preseason too.
All right, Dustin, we are just over 45 minutes into this late night show. We should wrap it up with some of our favorite quick hitters. These are really good for those of you listening. It's fun to jump in and say who you would pick because we can also always check late Monday night or Tuesday whenever we decide to record again.
Who made the right some questions as well?
Who made the right call? So yeah, we'll take questions at the end. Let me be the facilitator here for the first 3.
Dole them out, man.
Carson Wentz or Matt Ryan week 1. Carson Wentz against the Jags, Matt Ryan against the Texans. Given game script and everybody healthy, who do you think has a better fantasy week?
A better fantasy week for me, I have to if I believe in the offense, I think it's got to be Matt Ryan. Yes, the rushing upside for Wentz is there, but I got to go Matt Ryan against the Texans. I think the touchdown opportunities are there.
All right, I will go Carson Wentz, not just to be contrary, but I think
we've had this argument all offseason.
He is just overhated. And I think I again, what we said earlier, when the opposing team doesn't put up a big enough of a fight, which the Texans might not be able to do, we could see so much Jonathan Taylor in the second half that Matt Ryan is just absolutely on cruise control. So, you go Ryan, I go Wentz. Quick hitter number 2, Russell Gage or Julio Jones out of the gate.
I did some thinking about this one, and the answer and the conclusion I came to actually surprised me. I'm going to go with Julio Jones because Russell Gage missing the last few weeks of training camp kind of has me a little concerned. I don't know what his role in this offense is going to be. I feel like his presence is necessary, but now that Chris Godwin may play, Mike Evans is going to be out there, of course. Julio Jones having the Gronk role, in my opinion. And then you've got Leonard Fournette, Rashad White, other guys taking passes. It's going to be a high-volume passing attack, but I feel like Julio Jones probably has a more appealing role, in my opinion, than Russell Gage at this point.
I also feel like Brady will make it a point to get Julio the ball early in the season, especially while Godwin is coming back. Much like you said, we will both go Julio here. I hope it's Gage. I've got a lot of Gage in best ball.
Yep.
But it's just when Julio's healthy, he's one of the best receivers of all time. It's going to be tough for Tom Brady to say, "Why don't you stay on the sideline? It's Russell Gage's time."
Right.
Next and final from me will be Kyle Pitts, Week 1 against New Orleans, over under 75 yards.
You make this tough on me because you know how big of a fan I am of Kyle Pitts,
That's
but
a good
I'm
line.
not. That is a great line. I don't know where you got that from.
I just made it up. I said this is doable but tough.
That's a really great line. I think Vegas is putting his line, though, this week at I think it's 54 yards or something like that. So I'm going to go under. I'm going to go under for Kyle Pitts. I think that New Orleans defense is still stout. Even getting rid of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, they're deep at corner and safety. So I think that the pressure that they're going to be able to put on Marcus Mariota is going to be significant. And Marcus Davenport and Cameron Jordan, pretty sure that's his name. I may have to check on that.
It is. They're going to give them hell.
Both pass rushers from New Orleans are going to make it difficult, and it's just a stout defense all through and through. So Kyle Pitts, I'm going to take the under on 75 yards.
I will also take the under. I think he is between 50 and 60 yards. Disappointing fantasy day out of the gate for Kyle Pitts, but
sure.
If he does, let's say he goes over 75 with a score against this defense, Week 1, the hype will be insane. So
I hope you have a second roster to trade for him in Dynasty because that's what it's going to take at that point. I told you about the touchdown regression.
Yeah, I think just under 75 for Week 1, but he's that good to where it makes it a tough line.
Okay.
You take the last two here.
Yeah, we'll stay in the same game because let's flip to the other side of the ball. 3 potential pass catchers, some uncertainty here, of course. Chris Olave, the rookie first-round draft pick for the Saints. You have Jarvis Landry and Michael Thomas. I'm curious to see who you think leads the Saints in targets in this Week 1 matchup against Atlanta.
My pick is going to be Jarvis Landry. Shocker. I said all offseason
I think
he leads the team on the season in targets.
Ooh.
So I think he definitely Week 1. Michael Thomas has not even confirmed that he will be 100% good to go.
Yeah.
So even if he suits up, maybe we get a Cam Akers type performance from Michael Thomas.
Interesting.
Olave, I like. He's going to be a great player, but Jarvis Landry is always open, always right in the middle of the field in the quarterback's face. He has done it his whole career, regardless of bad quarterback play or not. Miami,
Sure.
Cleveland. Jarvis Landry is a favorite of every quarterback. 7-8 yards right in the middle of the field. I think he does that 8 to 10 times and out targets Olave and Michael Thomas.
I'm going to respectfully disagree.
All right.
Because I'll put a caveat on it because, look, if Michael Thomas is healthy, Michael Thomas will be the target leader. That is my belief. I think that Jameis will put the trust in Michael Thomas. No doubt about it. That's who it's going to be. If it's not Michael Thomas, I think it's going to be Chris Olave. Because Chris Olave is that talented. I think that the team traded up a whole bunch of draft capital, even though they know they don't have a first-rounder next year, to go and get this guy when everyone thought it was going to be trading up to grab, Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett. It's Chris Olave. Chris Olave is that guy. He made a bunch of plays in camp. He looks great. And Jarvis Landry, talented, was very relevant for a long time. Because he was relevant for a long time, he is at the end. He's far past his prime, in my opinion. I don't think he demands 10 targets anymore. He'll probably get, 4 to 6. I think it's Chris Olave. I think that's going to be how they operate if MT is out.
Okay. One more. Spit it
This
to me.
one, I really want to hear your opinion on this one. Damian Pierce over under 65 yards against the Indianapolis Colts here.
It sounds like so
He's a
few.
darling. He's a darling for the fantasy community. I've seen him being drafted in the 4th and 5th rounds.
It has gotten out
And
of hand.
so talk to me, over under first week against the Colts, 65 yards.
I'm going just under for Pierce. I think he's around 50 yards. The Colts are very impressive on defense. Absolutely underrated and not talked about enough. When Leonard is on the field, he is dominating opposing running backs. I think when you look at the 2020 numbers, you see the Colts were not run on. So a rookie in his first game, I would not be surprised to see Burkhead even be a little bit more effective than Pierce just because he's a cagey vet who kind of finds a way and understands the game. And they're going to be coming from behind, which is Burkhead's kind of, that's his deal.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I think Damian Pierce around 50, maybe 55, but I don't think he gets to 65. He would have to break a pretty. I think he has to go for a 20 plus yard run to get that 65.
Yeah, not impossible. I
Yeah.
think 65 for a starting running back, and now you said total yards, so not
Total
rushing yards.
Yeah.
I think that the opportunity is there to be, just to be I was gonna say under. I'm starting to lean towards over because you talked about the garbage time narrative. It's very much real for running backs, especially if they believe in his pass catching abilities. I think that he's going to have enough. It just takes one play,
Yeah.
one play, 15, 20-yard run, and then the rest of the game you can kind of make up for that ground to get to 65 yards. The Indianapolis Colts are a stout run D. DeForest Buckner is no joke. Shaq Leonard is no joke. So the Texans don't exactly have the strongest interior offensive line. They've got good tackles, not so much guards and center. So it doesn't make me feel super great, but I like being contrarian and I like disagreeing with you. But also, I think that total yards, especially in a game where they're probably going to be trailing for a good amount, I think it's possible. So I'm going to say the over, but just over. I think 66 yards. I'll give him.
All right. So quick recap of the 5 quick hitters of the night. Dustin says Matt Ryan over Wentz. Travis says Wentz. We agree Julio Jones over Russell Gage for week 1. We both agree Kyle Pitts just under 75 yards.
Right.
Dustin says Olave leads the Saints in targets. I go with Landry. And finally, Damian Pierce. Dustin says just over the 65-yard total yard mark. I go just under.
Absolutely. Just scrolling through the questions now as we kind of look to wrap up the show. B-Dubs is asking our thoughts on Brian Robinson. I think he's a guy you need to stash in your leagues if he is available and you have an IR spot. 100%.
Really?
I do because, look, he's going to be back around week 5, and they're going to start getting him implemented. This is a guy you're looking at. I look at him very similar to like a Jameson Williams, maybe a very high value target. The offense and the coaching staff obviously want to get him implemented. He was going to be the starting running back for this team. That
I don't buy
whatever
it.
that means, they want to give him the ball. So it costs you nothing. You put him in a forget about him spot in the IR.
Yeah.
And then
if you can do that, I don't have any issue with that.
for sure.
I
Who else
don't
we got?
expect. I do not expect him to be the starter once he comes back. I still expect Gibson to get that job, be effective, and make it really hard to be taken off the field.
Jimbo Fisher asks our thoughts on Cam Akers. Jimbo, listen, if you can, go back and listen to the beginning of the show. We talk about Cam Akers, but we can also tell you we have some questions. We're not looking to really start him next week. They face Atlanta, but we don't really know what the workload is going to be. You could end up with a big old whopping nothing. So if you have another guy you grabbed that you feel comfortable putting in your starting lineup, I suggest probably doing it until we see a little bit more clarity in that backfield. Travis, do you have anything else to add to that real quick?
Nope. Well said.
Jared Holland asking about high upside running backs you'd roster for week 1, guys you'd be ready to drop after week 1. Thinking about some fringe guys.
I'm already ready to drop James Cook.
Sure. So high upside guys. Rashad White. Looking at that kind of role. If you have him, Tyler Algier's a guy I picked up. So you look at his role week 1. If he gets like 3-5 carries, drop him. You can pick him up later. It's not supposed to be a huge offense anyway.
Jeff Wilson. I have seen on a lot of waivers. I picked him up in a lot of dynasties.
Yeah, you could grab someone like that. There.
So yeah, if you see handcuffs out there right now,
go
grab them. There's no reason not to have Jeff Wilson, because just like last year, there's so many times when a clear starter goes down.
Right.
Everybody has Madison. Everybody has the top 3 or 4 handcuffs in the league. Rashad White, like you said, he's probably more owned than Jeff Wilson. Go find guys who are now clear 2s that people have not talked about all offseason.
For sure. And make sure you're paying attention to guys who your teammates drop.
Yep.
A question that they just said, Javier G asks, who can we trade Henderson for? That's a great question.
We can answer that probably better after week 1.
Yeah, let's take a look, see who, maybe you're going to see some guys who underperformed, because right now he's a co-starter, a guy who's getting a lot of the backfield work. So let's take a look and see how the landscape looks out. Maybe, Breece Hall is going to get off to a rough start. We just talked about at the beginning of the show.
That's a good one.
If you can take Henderson and, a little bit extra and get Breece Hall, sure, do it. So
let's see who couple buy lows are after week 1. Henderson will be probably a sell high.
Sure.
Just because kind of what Henderson is. As long as Cam Akers is around, Henderson's never going to be a bell cow. And I think the same for Cam Akers now, unfortunately. I was hoping that Akers' talent would win out, but I think it is going to be – and they told us, and I still didn't believe them. Sean McVay said, if everything goes how we want, it will be around a 50-50 split. So we'll see.
Sure.
Henderson is not the epitome of health over his career. Obviously, Cam Akers isn't either, so one of them could benefit from that sooner rather than later.
For sure. Guys, make sure you follow us over on Twitter, though. We're at Losing Sucks. I'm at Dustin BLNTN. We're going to be pretty available throughout the season. Make sure you shoot us some questions, DMs. Make sure you comment, follow our live streams we're going to be doing. We do them twice a week, and we'll be happy to answer your questions there. We love interacting with you guys. We love seeing the comments here, having the conversation. It's a lot of fun.
For sure.
Love that the NFL season is kicked off. Thank you so much for listening. It's week 1. Heading into Sunday, it's going to be a lot of interesting storylines, and hopefully you all win your matchups. Good luck out there. Score some points. Stay healthy. And most importantly, losing sucks. Don't do it.